The digital ecosystem has certainly evolved and got a little bit more complex of late, right? As we start to think about how privacy is driving that whole consumer first consent model within the industry, we've seen a lot of development. So thinking around how that evolves and how we got here, that really starts with consumers are really demanding more privacy and control over their data. That's really the crux of the situation. And I think, we've talked before about how we got there in terms of understanding and education around what that value exchange actually looks like for privacy and control, right? The second piece is legislation that has come into effect. So thinking about GDPR, CCPA, and all the other acronyms under the sun that are continuing to roll out across not only the US, but globally, that has started to really impact how data is collected and used. And then, of course, finally, and more recently, we've seen a lot of announcements from Apple, from Google, in terms of browser and tech companies limiting or removing the traditional data collection around their access methods in terms of cookies and also IDFA. So we've seen a lot of change. The one theme that I think continues is that third-party cookies are, we're going to be left with crumbs. But again, I know you and I have discussed before, Andy, in terms of what that really means in terms of the marketer and the way that we approach the consumer and context is actually quite exciting in terms of how precise we can be in terms of our understanding about people as individuals, people as humans, and how we get to a more contextually relevant message.
So how do your marketers bring first-party data? And many of them have, not all of them do. What are some best case uses for marketers who bring their first party data to this advanced changing digital world?
Really runs the gamut of data maturity across different clients, right? So the impact of all of this has different meanings for different clients depending on their reliance on the third-party cookie, right? So the decline of the third-party cookie means that some data segments in certain contexts will become obsolete. However, what that means is that we can start to really look at other data signals that get us to a place where we can be more relevant. In the activation space, it means that, from a cookie perspective, that will mean that we are looking at increasing our reliance on first-party data. So that value exchange with a client becomes even more important in terms of how a client acquires first-party data around their consumers, what they're offering and how they deliver that, which means that contextual targeting will increase. And then, of course, measurement. Measurement is the other piece of the puzzle that gets impacted when we start to think about the fact that we can no longer use those third-party cookies to understand and track ad exposure. But that also means it's quite exciting from a point of view of looking at the aggregating metrics, the lift testing in terms of brand metrics, and of course using probabilistic models like econometrics, like various other ways of measuring to get to the true answers. So on the one hand, it means that we are looking at different methods. On the other hand, it means that we can be much more contextually relevant. But also, the cookie was a means to an end anyway. And our reliance has not been on cookies completely for quite some time in terms of the way that we look around not only that display marketing in terms of understanding human signals and ID-based signals and first-party data, but also remember that cookies are only a proportion of the media mix. So when you think about popular media channels like marketing channels like in-app or connected TVs, they've never supported cookies, right? They don't support cookies anyway. TV has never been a connected cookie-based medium. So it doesn't frighten me as much as it does a lot of people, because I get excited about how we can apply our marketing intelligence across the board.
Big opportunities, big challenges. What are some things that you're seeing in terms of your clients' expectations and successes?
At Spark Foundry, we see, like I say, we have a disparate collection of clients in terms of we have some very, very digitally savvy, tech-driven companies. And we have also some that are starting out, right, in terms of their digital and data journey. What we're seeing is a heavier reliance on that first party data, and starting to think about how you can drive that first party data across not only the client base, but and understanding your own first party CRM data as a client, but also how you can leverage that within those digital relationships within the marketplace with publishers. We also see an opportunity for clients to start to think about moving away from the tech and the jargon and understanding the heart of the problem we're trying to solve in terms of the business problem, and go at it from a marketing perspective versus a tech perspective, because the tech will always be there, right? We can help with tech, and we're having all of those conversations around first party ID, about walled gardens, about the rise of the paywall, about iOS 14. But what's really important is that we start to think about, as we leverage the new ecosystem, is about how we build that trusted value exchange between consumers and individuals, marketeers, and then publishers as well, so that we can start to rebuild those connected relationships and think about how we deliver that valuable consumer experience.